Hello everyone, welcome to this lecture on solving problems from questions which appeared in PGTRB examination. I am going to discuss Unit 5 questions which appeared in 2019 PGTRB chemistry. Okay, let's get into the discussions. This is question number 1. 3 distinguishable particles should be arranged in 2 states. The number of ways is. Listen, here 2 states are given, and how particles are arranged, right? That information is not given. So what we have to do, if question is given in this manner, it is actually a general type of question. For this question, what we have to do, okay, say here we have 2 states. We have 2 states, and how many particles we have? We have 3 particles. We have 3 particles, and all are distinguishable particles. If the particles are distinguishable, then number of ways of placing the particle or arranging the particle can be obtained. Number of ways of arranging the particle in the 2 states. See, actually for each macro state we have to find out the number of micro state. Since the macro state is not specified here, okay, what we have to do, we have to calculate all possible micro states of all possible macro states. So what I am trying to say is, if problem is given like this, is very simple. What we have to do, how many states are there? 2 states. 2 states. How many particles are there? Since the particles are distinguishable, you can use this shortcut formula, 2 power 3. Number of states power number of particles. Okay, very simple. What is 2 power 3? 2 into 2 into 2, which is 8. So the correct option for this question is option D. Okay, if distinguishable particles are given, right, you have to use this formula, right? If suppose a particular macro state is specified, okay, if a particular macro state is specified for a distinguishable particle, you can use this formula, that is n factorial, total number of particle n factorial divided by pi into ni factorial. This ni factorial will give you number of particles placed in each state. Okay, so if you know ni and capital N, you can calculate thermodynamic probability. This will give you thermodynamic probability for a particular macro state, right? If macro state is not mentioned, then you can use this formula. Okay, so here number of states power number of particle, just place it, you will get the answer. And this formula is applicable only for distinguishable particles, right? Then second question, vibrational partition function is given by the equation. Yeah, this is a very simple question. You know very well, vibrational partition function for one vibrational degree of freedom can be given as e power minus h nu by 2 kBt by 1 minus e power minus h nu by kBt. Right, this is the formula if you consider 0 point energy for the system. Okay, with the 0 point energy we can say. So this is with the 0 point energy, right here. With the 0 point energy, this is the formula. Without 0 point energy, suppose if you don't consider 0 point energy, if you keep the ground vibrational state energy as 0, okay, that means if you don't consider 0 point energy, then the vibrational partition function formula becomes like this: 1 by 1 minus e power minus h nu by kBt. This is the formula. Okay, and remember this quantity, that is h nu by kb, right, where h is constant, kb is constant, but nu is the vibrational frequency of the bond. This vibrational frequency is a characteristic value for a particular bond. Okay, if it is a diatomic molecule, it is a particular value for that molecule. So h nu by Kb is a characteristic value. So it is called, and the unit of this is Kelvin. So this is often referred as characteristic vibrational temperature, represented as theta V. What is theta V? Characteristic vibrational temperature. Because this h nu by Kb has the unit of Kelvin, the temperature as the unit of temperature. So this quantity is called characteristic vibrational temperature. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to replace this h nu by Kb by theta V. So you can write this expression also as 1 by 1 minus e power minus theta V by T. Okay, so this is the expression for vibrational partition function without 0 point energy. See, in all the 4 options, okay, it is clear that the options are given without 0 point energy. So the correct option is option B. Okay, so if you remember the formula, you can easily score mark for this type of questions. Right. The next question: which of the following is true for a closed system? You know very well, in closed system, right, particles cannot go out or cannot come in. Therefore, mass of the system remains constant. So there is no change in mass. Okay, mass change is 0, dm is 0. Whereas it is a simple closed system, so heat transfer may occur. Heat may transfer from surrounding to system or system to surrounding. This is allowed. Heat transfer is allowed. Therefore, change in heat, okay, change in heat or heat transferred is not 0. It is not equal to 0. Heat transfer may occur. Okay, this is the nature of closed system. In closed system, no mass transfer occur, only energy transfer occurs. Okay, yeah. So the correct option for this question is option B. dq not equal to 0, but dm equal to 0. Then next question: the residual entropy of N2O at 0 Kelvin according to third law of thermodynamics is. You know very well, according to third law, for a perfect crystal, suppose if we have a perfect crystal, for perfect crystal, entropy at 0 Kelvin should be 0 according to third law. But the given crystal is N2O. Okay, N2O has due to some orientation of the molecules, okay, in the crystal lattice, you will get some entropy, which we call as residual entropy. So what is the residual entropy associated with the N2O, okay, at 0 Kelvin? See, N2O, yes, this is the shape of N2O. N2O is a linear molecule. It can present in this manner in crystal, or it can present in this way. So two possible orientations are there. So residual entropy formula, yes, molar residual entropy Sm is equal to R ln W. Okay, I am giving you molar entropy. Normal entropy formula, Boltzmann formula is Kb ln W, but I have given directly the molar entropy, right? Okay, now what we have to do? R ln, how many orientations possible? 2 orientations, so W should be equal to 2 here. Therefore the molar entropy is R ln 2. This is the residual entropy associated with the N2O at 0 Kelvin. So the correct option is option C. Okay, then the next question: fugacity of a substance in a mixture was found to be 5. We usually represent fugacity of any substance I in the mixture, okay, which is given as 5, and fugacity when it is pure is given as Fi, which is 20. The activity of the substances. This is a very simple question actually. Activity is nothing but fugacity of the substance in the mixture divided by fugacity of the pure substance. Okay, let us denote pure substance as Fi naught. Okay, so this is 5, This is 25 by 21 by 4, which is 0.25. So the correct option is option D. Okay, just remember this formula. Activity is nothing but fugacity of a component in a mixture divided by fugacity of the same component in pure state. Okay, then choose a suitable solvent for thin layer chromatography. The one which is to choose a suitable solvent for thin layer chromatography, the one which is used is Pascal triangle is used in NMR. Stahl's triangle, yes, this is the correct answer. Stahl's triangle is used to find the suitable solvent in TLC. Okay, Stahl's triangle is this Stahl's triangle we usually draw like this, where here we have the mixture, and here we have the stationary phase, and here we have the eluent. Okay, the mixture may be hydrophilic or lipophilic. Hydrophilic means it can soluble in more polar solvents. Lipophilic means more soluble in non-polar solvent. Lipophilic. Okay, and your stationary phase may be active or inactive. Inactive stationary phase, active stationary phase, and eluent is the solvent. Okay, the eluent can be either this is polar end and this is non-polar end. So what we have to do, suppose if your mixture has a property here, okay, so you have to turn the triangle and keep it exactly straight to the point, and then note where this E facing. Okay, if E facing here, suppose, then your solvent should be more non-polar in nature, okay, and less polar in nature. So to choose solvent for TLC, okay, we use Stahl's triangle. Okay, and so the correct option is B. Then option C, Van Demeter equation. Van Demeter equation is used to find the number of theoretical plates, okay, in chromatography. So number of theoretical plates, H is equal to A plus B into B by U and C into U. This is the formula called Van Demeter equation, okay, where A is the number of paths available for eluent to move, or solute to move. Okay, number of paths available for solute to move, right? B by U will give you longitudinal diffusion, and C into U will give you the mass resistance. Okay, yes. If H increases, number of theoretical plate increases. If number of theoretical plate increases, efficiency of separation will increase. Okay, so this is also an equation used in chromatography, Van Demeter equation. Fourier series, that you know very well, to simplify, okay, complex spectrum, right? We can use Fourier series, which is applicable in many places. Okay, so this we know already. So the correct option for this question is option B. Then next question, the first order maxima for Bragg's X-ray diffraction spectrometer for sodium chloride appears at 30 degree. If the wavelength of X-ray used is 1.5 interplanar distances, you know very well Bragg's equation, Bragg's law. Okay, n lambda equal to 2d sin theta. Okay, here it is given clearly first order maxima, so n is 1, right? And if the wavelength is given 1.5 angstrom units, 1.5 angstrom units, since all the options are given in angstrom units, you keep this wavelength also in angstrom units. Then 2 into we have to find out interplanar distance d. This is what we have to find out. Then sin theta is given 30 degree, right? Sin 30. So this is 1.5, 2 into d. Sin 30 is 1 by 2. Okay, sin 30 is 1 by 2. So 2 can cancel. So interplanar distance is again 1.5 angstrom units. So the correct option is B. Very simple question. So if you remember the Bragg's law, you can easily find out the interplanar distance, right? Then zinc oxide is white in cold, but it turns yellow on heating. What is the reason? This is actually due to metal excess defect. It's a very simple one, you know very well, because on heating zinc oxide, okay, what will happen? Oxide ions present in the crystal lattice will undergo oxidation. So of O2 will undergo oxidation, become O2 gas. Okay, I'm sorry, it's not half O2, it is 2 O2 minus ions. Yeah, 2 O2 minus ion gives you O2 and release 4 electrons. Okay, so oxygen gas is evolved, right? So on heating zinc oxide, you'll get zinc ion and oxygen gas is evolved, and you'll get free electrons. These electrons will occupy some of the anion vacancies present in the crystal. So you'll get F center defect here. Okay, but if you compare, see, electrical neutrality is maintained because these electrons will occupy anion vacancy, and therefore the crystal remains neutral. But if you compare the total number of metal ion and total number of oxide ion, total number of metal ion is more. So that's why it is called metal excess defect. Okay, so due to the formation of F centers, okay, you'll get the color become yellow on heating. Okay, then the next question, the stationary and mobile phases in paper chromatographies. Yeah, paper chromatography is a partition chromatography. So the stationary phase should be liquid and the mobile phase should also be liquid. Okay, very, very important. Keep it in mind. For partition paper chromatography, okay, occurs through the mechanism of partition, right? Yeah. Then at 258 degrees Celsius, the degree of dissociation of 0.1 molar weak acid was found to be 0.5. The dissociation constant of the acid is, okay, some weak acid is given, right? So they are asking dissociation constant. You know very well Ka is equal to alpha square C by 1 minus alpha. Okay, Ostwald dilution law formula, Ka equal to alpha square C by 1 minus alpha. Alpha is given, right? The degree of dissociation is 0.5. So 0.5 square, 0.5 into 0.5 we can write 2 times. Concentration is given 0.1 molarity divided by 1 minus 0.5. Okay, 1 minus 0.5 is 0.5. So keep the numerator as such. 1 minus 0.5 is 0.5. Cancel 0.5, 0.5. Okay, so if you multiply 0.5 into 0.1, you'll get 0.05. So 0.05 is the correct option for this question. Okay, very simple one. If you remember Ostwald dilution law formula, okay, you can easily calculate the value of Ka. And you know very well, if alpha is less than 0.1, okay, if alpha is less than 0.1, then you can calculate Ka directly using this formula, Ka equal to alpha square C, because in this case alpha is very small compared to 1, so you can neglect this alpha in the denominator. Okay, in our case alpha is 0.5, so you should not neglect the denominator. Keep it in mind, very, very important. Neutron diffraction involves, it's a very simple one. Neutron diffraction involves both nuclear scattering and magnetic scattering. So correct option is option B. Okay, neutron diffraction involves both nuclear scattering and magnetic scattering. So these are all the questions appeared. Okay, I'm sorry, we have one more question. The value of Madelung constant is, the value of Madelung constant depends upon the value of R, independent of the geometry, depends upon, yes, Madelung constant depends upon the geometry of the crystal. Okay, that is the correct answer for this question, right? Under solid state, right, you might have seen that Born-Landé equation, right? While deriving Born-Landé equation, we'll introduce a constant there called Madelung constant. That Madelung constant depends upon the geometry of the crystal. Okay, yeah, so this is the correct answer for question C for this question. Then okay, so so in this lecture I have covered unit 5 questions which appeared in 2019 PGTRB chemistry, right? We'll discuss you need 5 questions. Okay, in other that is other previous examinations of PGTRB chemistry, right? I hope you have enjoyed this lecture. Okay, thank you.